Welcome back to The Visual Argument. I'm Era. Last episode, we explored the very nature of the image, from cave paintings to modern photography, and how images survive, witness, deceive, and argue. Today, we're stepping into the eye of a storm, literally. Joseph Mallord William Turner, one of the most radical painters of the 19th century, painted storms like no one else. His canvases swirl with wind, rain, smoke, and light. Humans, if they appear at all, are tiny, almost fragile against the elements he conjures. But Turner's storms are not just weather. They are philosophy. They are argument. They are the visual embodiment of something the Romantics called the sublime. Imagine standing on a cliff, looking out over a storm-tossed sea. Waves crash, white foam spraying into the wind. Lightning illuminates the sky in jagged bursts. Your heart pounds. You feel both fear and exhilaration. This is what philosophers call the sublime. The sublime is not beauty in the conventional sense. Beauty is comforting. It is harmonious, pleasing, reassuring. The sublime is the opposite. It overwhelms. It challenges. It stretches the mind and the body to their limits. Edmund Burke in the 18th century wrote extensively about the sublime. He argued that it arises from vastness, terror, darkness, and power from forces that overwhelm human perception and imagination. To encounter the sublime is to feel both fear and pleasure, awe and vulnerability. Immanuel Kant later refined the idea. For Kant, the sublime is a confrontation with the limits of our reason. We encounter something immense, beyond comprehension, a storm, a mountain, the cosmos itself, and our mind struggles to grasp it. In that struggle, we feel the thrill of expansion. We feel alive in the presence of what is greater than ourselves. Turner painted the sublime. Take Snowstorm, Hannibal and his army crossing the Alps. From a distance, the scene may look chaotic, almost abstract. Swirling whites, grays, and browns dominate the canvas. But look closer. Tiny figures of soldiers and elephants struggle against the storm. They are almost lost in the vastness. Nature is no longer a backdrop, it is the protagonist. Turner's genius is in his ability to make us feel the sublime. He does not merely illustrate a storm, he immerses us in it. The wind lashes our face, the snow blurs our vision, the world tilts beneath our feet. We are participants, not observers. But the sublime is not just about nature's power. It is about perspective, scale, and emotion. Turner's storms make us confront our own smallness. They remind us of human fragility. And yet, there is exhilaration in that recognition. To feel overwhelmed is also to feel alive. The sublime is philosophical as much as it is aesthetic. Turner's paintings argue that nature is immense, indifferent, and beautiful in its terror. Humanity may be small, but it is capable of perceiving, imagining, and surviving within that vastness. And there is also a moral dimension. In the slave ship, a ship is engulfed by stormy seas, human suffering almost invisible beneath the waves. Turner's storm bears witness to both the forces of nature and the forces of human cruelty. The sublime, in this context, becomes a framework for ethical reflection. Turner's storms also experiment with light, color, and motion. Swirling clouds, fragmented brushstrokes, sudden bursts of yellow and white all create sensation. The paintings are not static. They move with the viewer's gaze. They are alive, dynamic, and immersive. Consider this. The Romantic era in which Turner worked was fascinated by extremes, terror and beauty, chaos and order, night and day. Turner distilled these extremes into pigment. Every swirl of paint, every streak of light, is an argument about the power, the immensity, and the emotional depth of nature. And here is the most remarkable part. Turner's storms are timeless. We can stand before them today, centuries later, and still feel that rush of awe. We still experience the sublime as he intended. The storm is no longer only a painted scene. It is a living encounter between the viewer and the world Turner imagined. To see Turner is to feel small and vast at the same time. It is to recognize the limits of perception and the expansiveness of imagination. His storms are not only art, they are philosophy in paint, argument in motion, emotion made visible. Turner teaches us that art can overwhelm the senses, challenge the mind, and stir the soul. That is the power of the sublime. And that is why we are drawn to storms in paint, in nature, and in life itself. Turner's storms are not simply illustrations of weather. They are experiences carefully constructed, emotionally charged, and intellectually provocative. When you stand before Snowstorm, Hannibal and his army crossing the Alps, you notice something immediately. The figures are tiny, almost swallowed by the swirling snow and wind. The elephants plod through the blizzard, indistinct shapes against the chaos. And yet, despite their small scale, you feel the enormity of their struggle. Turner achieves this through his mastery of composition. He uses diagonal lines, swirling brushstrokes, and layered color to create motion. The storm is not static. It moves across the canvas, pulling the viewer into its vortex. You are not merely observing the storm, you are inside it. Consider the role of light. Turner understood how light can shape perception and emotion. In many of his storm paintings, light emerges through the chaos, a flash of yellow in a gray sky, a glint on wet rocks, a distant horizon barely visible through the blizzard. This interplay of light and shadow creates drama. It heightens tension. It gives the viewer a sense of hope, fragility, or even terror. But Turner's genius is also in his ambiguity. The storm is never fully defined. Clouds dissolve into mist. Waves become abstract shapes. Humans are reduced to gestures, not detailed faces. This ambiguity is deliberate. It forces the viewer to participate. You must navigate the painting, construct meaning, and imagine the elements yourself. Turner doesn't hand you the story. He invites you into it. The effect is visceral. Scholars and critics describe feeling wind on their face, snow in their hair, and motion underfoot while standing before his work. The paintings create a sensory simulation, the visual equivalent of standing in a storm. Turner's brushwork is key to this effect. He often applied paint rapidly, in thick swirls and washes, sometimes scraping or blending directly on the canvas. The resulting texture captures movement and energy. Clouds seem to roll, water appears to surge, smoke rises, dissipates, and changes before your eyes. The painting is alive, constantly shifting depending on where you focus. There is an emotional rhythm to it as well. Turner's storms unfold like music. There are crescendos, lightning flashes, crashing waves, and softer passages, distant clouds, gentle reflections of light on water. The viewer experiences tension and release, just as in a symphony. This approach transforms the act of viewing from passive observation into active engagement. You must look, interpret, feel, and imagine. The painting does not simply present an image. It stages an experience. Turner's storms are also philosophical experiences. By immersing the viewer in chaos, he forces reflection. How do humans relate to nature? How do we confront forces beyond our control? How do courage, perseverance, and survival reveal themselves in the face of the overwhelming? Take the slave ship. The storm is not only atmospheric, but moral. The sea churns, waves crash, the sky is violent, yet human suffering continues beneath this chaos. The storm amplifies the tragedy, making the viewer confront the horror, the vulnerability, and the indifference of the natural world. Turner's argument is implicit. Human cruelty exists, but it is small against the immensity of life and nature. And yet, that immensity also offers a space for reflection, empathy, and awe. Turner understood that the image could do more than depict. It could convey experience, it could transform the viewer, creating an emotional, intellectual, and even spiritual encounter. This is why his storms still captivate us today. We feel the wind, the snow, the chaos, even in the quiet of a gallery. And perhaps this is why Turner's work continues to influence modern media. Filmmakers, digital artists, and photographers study his compositions, his use of light, and his techniques for conveying motion and emotion. They seek to replicate the immersive power that Turner achieved with oil on canvas. His legacy reminds us that a painting is not just a picture. It is a staged experience, a journey, a challenge to the senses, the imagination, and the mind. To stand before a Turner storm is to be present not just as a viewer, but as a participant. You feel, you imagine, you confront, and in that confrontation, Turner's argument about the sublime, about nature, about human vulnerability becomes your own experience. Turner's storms are not just about nature in isolation. They are about the relationship between humans and the world around them, our fragility, our courage, and our limitations. Take the slave ship. In this painting, the ocean churns violently, waves lapping and breaking under a storm-tossed sky. The ship is barely visible amid the tumult, and yet it is the focus of human action or inaction. Slaves, thrown overboard, are swallowed by the sea. The storm bears witness to the horrors, indifferent, vast, and unstoppable. Turner's argument is both emotional and moral. The natural world is immense and indifferent, but it frames the consequences of human actions. The storm amplifies human suffering, compelling us to reflect on the ethical dimensions of what we see. Turner does not simply depict a tragedy, he immerses the viewer in it. We feel the powerlessness, the terror, the awe. Contrast that with rain, steam, and Speed, the Great Western Railway. Here, humanity confronts nature in a different way. A train, a symbol of industrial progress, cuts through rain and mist. The stormy sky looms overhead, the tracks vanish into the haze, and yet human ingenuity presses forward. Turner captures both achievement and vulnerability. Humanity advances, but it remains small, contingent, subject to the forces it seeks to master. This tension is central to Turner's vision. Humans are active participants in the world, yet we exist within a system far larger than ourselves. Storms, oceans, mountains, they remind us of scale, mortality, and humility. Turner's compositions reinforce this perspective. Look at the tiny figures in his canvases, travelers struggling against wind, ships tossed in waves, soldiers lost in snow. By reducing the human scale, Turner conveys the enormity of the environment, but also emphasizes resilience. Even the smallest gestures, a hand clutching a rope, a body bracing against the wind, become acts of courage and endurance. But the storms are not only physical, they are psychological and symbolic. They mirror human emotion, fear, awe, despair, exhilaration. They are externalizations of internal struggles, painted as swirling clouds, torrential rain, and turbulent seas. Turner's storms argue that human experience cannot be separated from the natural world. Our emotions, our morality, our survival all unfold within its vast theater. And there is a philosophical layer here. Turner's art resonates with romantic ideas about the sublime and the power of nature, but it also anticipates modern environmental thinking. The storm suggests that humans are part of a larger ecosystem, bound by forces beyond control. Technology, society, and culture operate within these limits, subject to both natural and moral law. Turner's work also explores temporality. Storms are fleeting, unpredictable, destructive, and transformative. By capturing them in paint, he freezes a moment of immense power and meaning. The painting allows us to experience what cannot be held, the chaotic energy of the world, the simultaneity of beauty and terror, the inescapable interplay between human action and natural force. Consider the emotional impact on the viewer. Standing before Turner, we feel the tension between vulnerability and exhilaration. We sense both danger and awe. The paintings demand presence and engagement, not just with the visual, but with the ethical, emotional, and philosophical dimensions of life. And perhaps that is why Turner's storms continue to resonate today. In a world of technology, climate crisis, and rapid change, his canvases remind us of our smallness and our responsibility. They remind us that we exist within a larger, powerful system, that our actions have consequences, and that nature, beautiful, terrible, sublime, will continue. Turner's argument is clear. Humanity may shape the world, but it does so within limits. Nature is not adversary nor ally. It is witness, force, and mirror. And by placing humans within storms, Turner forces us to confront both our fragility and our courage, our ethics and our imagination. Turner's storms do more than overwhelm the eye. They beckon to the ear if we imagine carefully. The paintings themselves are silent, yet they vibrate with rhythm, energy, and motion that can almost be heard in the mind. Think of Snowstorm, Hannibal and his army crossing the Alps. The swirling chaos of snow and wind evokes a cacophony, the hiss of sleet, the rush of air, the groan of bending trees, the distant cry of terrified animals, the muffled struggle of soldiers and elephants against the elements. Each brushstroke suggests movement. Each diagonal swirl implies sound. Even in silence, the storm is a symphony. Turner understood the power of rhythm and repetition in visual composition. The repeated diagonals of snow and mist echo the cadence of wind and waves. The contrast of light and dark creates punctuation, like musical beats, guiding the viewer's attention and shaping the emotional tempo. Some scholars compare Turner's brushwork to musical notation. Thick, swirling strokes are accents. Delicate washes are quiet interludes. The storm is not static. It unfolds like a composition, orchestrating chaos and calm, tension and release. The viewer experiences it like listening to a symphony, not just looking at a picture. Imagine standing before the slave ship. The ocean roars in your imagination, punctuated by the desperate struggle of human figures. The sky flashes a visual lightning bolt, and we hear it in our mind's ear, a sudden shock in the rhythm of the painting. Turner's storms engage multiple senses simultaneously, merging sight, sound, and emotion into a single, overwhelming experience. This multisensory effect is deliberate. Turner pushes beyond representation. He does not merely show the storm, he stages it. He constructs an experience that the viewer inhabits mentally, emotionally, and physically. We feel the wind on our faces, the snow in our hair, the chaos pressing against our senses. In this sense, Turner's storm is immersive in a way that anticipates cinema, virtual reality, and modern multimedia art. Consider the parallels with contemporary sound design. Filmmakers use sound to immerse audiences in environments, to create emotional resonance, to convey scale and motion. Turner achieves a similar effect with pigment, brushstroke, and composition. His storms suggest sound, tempo, and energy, inviting the viewer to hear the chaos as much as see it. There is also a psychological dimension. The imagined sounds of a storm evoke fear, awe, and exhilaration. They heighten our empathy for the tiny humans struggling within it. They amplify the moral and emotional weight of the scene. In rain, steam, and speed, the hiss of steam and the rhythmic pounding of wheels might not be literal, but we sense them, understanding the speed, energy, and risk. Turner's argument is auditory as well as visual. The world is immense, powerful, and urgent. Turner's storms teach us that the image is not limited to sight. Art can engage multiple senses, creating experiences that are both intellectual and visceral. The sublime is not only seen, it is felt and heard within the mind and body. And this opens another perspective: the role of imagination in perceiving art. Turner's work requires active participation. We supply the sounds, the motion, the sensation. The painting is a collaboration between artist and viewer. Turner paints a storm. We hear it, feel it, live it. In this way, the argument of the painting is co-created. This is why Turner remains so compelling. Even centuries later, his storms resonate. We may not stand in blizzards, battlefields, or storm-tossed seas, but Turner allows us to inhabit those moments. We feel the chaos, the danger, the awe, all through visual cues and our own sensory imagination. Turner's storms are lessons in perception. They show us that images can transcend their medium, that a painting can communicate not only sight, but sound, motion, emotion, and thought. In every swirl of paint, in every flash of light, Turner creates a world that is alive, a storm that we can inhabit, imagine, and understand on multiple levels. To engage with Turner is to engage with the world fully, to see, to hear, to feel, to think. And in that engagement, we discover the full power of the sublime, the argument, and the immersive experience that makes Turner's storms timeless. Turner's storms were radical in their time, and their impact continues to ripple through art, culture, and visual media. He broke the conventions of the Academy, challenged traditional representation, and redefined the limits of paint itself. His bold brushwork, innovative use of color, and dynamic compositions influenced generations of artists, from the Impressionists to modern abstract painters. Monet, Pissarro, and Sisley studied the way Turner captured light, atmosphere, and motion, carrying forward his experiments in color and perception. But Turner's influence is not limited to painting. Cinematographers, directors, and digital artists have all drawn inspiration from his storms. Consider Terrence Malick's films The New World or The Tree of Life, where nature becomes a character, overwhelming humans with scale, movement, and light. Or Andrei Tarkovsky, whose rain, wind, and snow sequences mirror Turner's immersive approach, using visual rhythm and atmosphere to evoke emotion and reflection. Turner's argument that nature is immense, unpredictable, and morally and emotionally significant transcends medium. The visual language he developed in oils translates seamlessly into film, photography, and digital art. Even in our age of screens and pixels, Turner's principles hold: composition, light, scale, and motion can communicate power, awe, and the sublime. Turner also influenced the philosophical perception of nature in art. By depicting humanity as small and fragile, his work encouraged reflection on our place in the world. Industrialization, urban expansion, and human intervention in natural systems became subjects of contemplation. His work foreshadowed environmental awareness and ecological thinking long before the language of climate change existed. The ethical dimension of Turner's legacy is equally significant. The slave ship, for example, confronts the viewer with human cruelty and the indifference of nature. It compels moral engagement. Turner's storms are not only visually and emotionally immersive, they are ethical landscapes. They remind us that the world is a complex interplay of human action, natural force, and moral consequence. Even contemporary digital culture carries traces of Turner's vision. Video games, VR experiences, and animated films that simulate storms, floods, or chaotic weather owe a conceptual debt to Turner. The principle is the same. Immersive environments create argument and emotional resonance. The player or viewer becomes a participant in the world, experiencing both its beauty and its terror. Turner also left a formal legacy. His willingness to experiment with brushstroke, color, composition, and scale opened the door for abstraction, expressionism, and experimentation in all media. The idea that a painting could convey sensation, emotion, and argument rather than merely depict a scene continues to inspire artists today. And perhaps Turner's most enduring lesson is about the viewer. He demands engagement, imagination, and reflection. His storms are incomplete without us. They require the observer to inhabit them, to supply the imagined sound, motion, and emotion. In doing so, Turner creates a collaborative experience across time, the painter, the storm, and the viewer all participating in a shared argument about nature, humanity, and perception. Turner's storms endure because they are more than pictures. They are experiences, arguments, and philosophical reflections made visible. They are bridges across centuries, connecting viewers to the sublime, to human emotion, to ethical reflection, and to imagination itself. To stand before Turner is to be reminded of the power of art, to move, to persuade, to challenge, and to expand perception. And in that reminder, we see why Turner remains not only relevant, but essential a figure whose storms continue to teach us how to see, how to feel, and how to think. We've traveled through Turner's storms today, from snow-laden Alps to tempestuous seas, from steam trains cutting through rain to the moral witness of the slave ship. We've explored the sublime, the emotional and philosophical power of the storm, and the ways Turner's brush creates immersive, multisensory experiences. And now, it's time to step back and consider what it all means for art, for perception, and for us as viewers. Turner teaches us that images are never passive. They are arguments, experiences, invitations. They demand engagement. Standing before a Turner storm, we do not simply look. We imagine the wind, feel the rain, hear the waves, and sense the vastness that surrounds us. We confront our own vulnerability, and in doing so, we confront the power of perception itself. Turner also reminds us of scale and humility. Humans in his works are often small, fragile, ephemeral, and yet in that smallness there is resilience, there is courage, there is the capacity to observe, reflect, and interpret. We may not control the storm, but we can understand it. We can participate in it intellectually, emotionally, morally, and that participation is the essence of experiencing art. There is also a temporal dimension. Turner's storms were painted centuries ago, yet they continue to speak. Each viewer becomes part of an ongoing conversation. The argument of the storm about nature, about human vulnerability, about the sublime, persists across time, adapting with every gaze, every interpretation, every reflection. Turner's work is a dialogue, not a monologue. And perhaps this is the most powerful lesson of all. The image is incomplete without us. The storm, the rain, the light, they exist in paint, in pigment, in imagination, but they only truly exist when someone encounters them, reflects on them, and feels them. The argument of art is never finished. It is a living, evolving exchange between artist, work, and viewer. Turner's legacy also asks us to consider our modern world. Today, we encounter storms not only on canvas, but in media, photography, and digital experiences. Natural disasters, climate phenomena, and even virtual simulations evoke similar feelings of awe, fear, and reflection. Turner's principles, immersion, scale, emotion, moral awareness, remain relevant. They remind us that perception is active, that seeing is participating, and that art, at its best, transforms both the observer and the observed. So, what do we carry with us from Turner? We carry a heightened awareness of the power of the image. We carry the understanding that nature is immense. Humans are small, and yet perception, reflection, and imagination are immense too. We carry the knowledge that art can be argument, philosophy, and experience all at once. And we carry the invitation to participate, to look, to imagine, to feel, and to think. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Turner's storms and the philosophy of the sublime. Next time on The Visual Argument, we will explore the secret life of pigments, the colors themselves that carry history, culture, and meaning, from the mines of Afghanistan to the studios of Renaissance masters. I'm Era, and this has been episode 2 of The Visual Argument.